When I was 25, my plan was to travel the world and save it as I went along. I had just finished working at a large and fancy management consulting firm, and I was excited to follow my passion towards a career in international development. I joined a major global NGO, definitely less large and fancy, but still a bit of both. I moved to Berlin, the promised land for young weirdos of all stripes. And I settled into a new identity as an international development professional. It really felt like I was living my dream. But within a year of diving into this new life, I was torn. I found myself wondering whether our work was more motivated by what excited our funders and less by what we heard from grassroots communities. I worried that all our good intentions were producing solutions in search of a problem. This was a scary thought for me, and it pushed me to look for more critical perspectives on the work that I was doing. I explored ideas like privilege, neocolonialism, the nonprofit industrial complex, and other phrases that made me equally uncomfortable, and that I'd be happy to discuss uncomfortably over fancy cheeses in just a few minutes. Within another year, I decided to leave international development. I returned to Canada to serve as director of Head in Hands, a grassroots youth clinic here in Montreal. Another migration across continents, fields of work, and identities. The contrast was huge. For 45 years, this organization had been working in the very same local community, helping young people work through deeply challenging situations, from poverty to drug addiction to homelessness. We did this through a range of services and programs, all connected by a single core approach. Respect every youth as the person in the best position to define their own problems and to identify the solutions that will work best for them. Coming out of my crisis of conscience around imposing solutions on communities that weren't always asking for them, it's not hard to see why this approach appealed to me so much. Finally, here was a mission that made me want to put down roots. But still, within my very first month leading the team, my sense of belonging was put to the test. I felt uncomfortable with some of the ways this approach looked in daily practice. Like, are we really going to give that 18-year-old a box of clean drug injection materials, even after we saw them throw away the addiction recovery resources we gave them? I asked my team a lot of questions like this, and I always got really good answers. For example, research shows that pressuring someone to break an addiction before they're ready, it actually sets them up for failure. Often, it even pushes them to fall back into their addiction harder than before, and to be less likely to ask for help in the future. So as I settled more deeply into this work and experienced firsthand the power of the approach, one crucial lesson became clear to me. When we're looking down from positions of privilege, inside systems that have worked well for us, it can be so hard to understand why the solutions that feel so obviously correct to us simply wouldn't work for another person or community with a different experience. 4 years later, I'm still deeply involved at Head in Hands. But I'm also back in migration mode, spending a year in this house with 11 amazing other people, all trying to figure out our own contributions to a fairer and better world. So how do I keep my future work anchored in the lessons that I learned at Head in Hands? One way is by asking questions. I learned some really powerful ones at Head in Hands, and I intend to ask them just about wherever I go from now on, especially when it's uncomfortable. I want to make sure I ask about who defined the problem that we're working on? Who designed the solution? Once a project is in motion, who's making decisions about how the work gets done? I want to ask direct questions about the power of funding to shape decisions on the ground, and about whose voices are being given space to balance that out. And if our honest answers to all these questions do not reflect the voices of the people who are supposed to benefit from the work, I want to have the courage to challenge that and to change it before agreeing to move forward. I think more and more, our generation gets how important this is. And I've been inspired to see us holding each other accountable when we slip up. I hope I can be a part of that by taking these questions with me and asking them about everything I'm doing from now on. And really, I think this is something we all need to be doing for each other as young leaders and also across generations. So, am I nervous about these next steps that I'm going to take, along with my beautiful housemates here, as we migrate across continents, disciplines, and communities? Yes, I am. But I'm also excited, because I think that we're going to take giant strides together towards a more fair and equal world, while also keeping our ears close to the ground. Thanks.